Today I'm going to show you the technique wrap and turn. This is generally considered a more advanced technique, but it is, like anything in knitting, not complicated, and even a beginner can understand it. Why do you use a wrap and turn? It's when you're working short rows. What are short rows? Well, normally when you knit at the beginning and all the way to the end until you finish your entire row. A short row is when the instructions say knit 6 and turn, okay? And you're done with that row. And then you would turn your work around and start knitting back this way. That's a short row. It's just not an entire row. So let's do a wrap and turn. And this is the traditional method. Let's say the instructions say to knit 5, and then they give you the instruction wrap and turn. So we're going to knit 5. It's at all possible. And don't worry about my technique. It's just knitting. 3, 4, 5. Okay. And here comes the wrap and turn. When you do this, you're not working the stitch, you're not knitting it or purling it. You are going to just wrap it. And wrap it, they mean by taking the working yarn and making an entire loop around that one stitch, kind of covering it like a shawl, okay? So to do that, you're going to have to get the stitch out of your way. So move the stitch purl-wise to your right-hand needle. You're going to bring the yarn forward between the needles. And now you're going to move that stitch right back onto the left-hand needle. That's your wrap. And now your turn is to turn your work around. Okay, like that. All right, you've got this little travel of working yarn around it. And now I'm going to purl back because I'm working in stockinette. And that's all there is to a wrap and turn. What you do need to know is that when you're working in stockinette or in some kind of knitted fabric like this that's going to show your wraps, you need to get rid of them when you knit, okay? Otherwise, you're going to end up with, here's my stockinette work, and here is a wrap I did not pick up. Notice it looks like a purl bump. So they show up, and you don't want that, okay? So next time, let's say it says, let me just knit across the whole row, just for the fun of it, okay? So it's going to be the 5 I knitted before, okay? And the next stitch, which was my wrap and turn, has that little loop wrapped around it like that, okay? So it's at the base of the stitch. It looks like a purl bump, but it isn't. And you're going to lift it up onto your needle, okay? And now you're going to knit that wrap and you're going to knit that stitch that is in there together. Just treat them as one stitch and knit them. And you got rid of that little purl bump thing. Let's do that again. I'm going to come down to my next one. And here's another wrapped stitch, okay, from another previous short row, okay? So I just lift it up on the needle and knit them together. If you end up going past a wrap stitch on your purl side, it's going to be a little harder to see. Let me turn my work around just to show you, okay? Here it's harder to see where the wrap is. Let me find one. This one's wrapped, okay? See, on this side I can't really tell that, okay? But I do need to pick up the wrap. In that case, and sometimes just because when I'm wrapping I have a hard time seeing it depending on the yarn, I'll go ahead and mark the stitch that's been wrapped so that I know when I get to that I need to pick up the wrap. Okay, so let me turn it around. If it helps you to identify it better, mark it when you make it, okay? There's a regular stitch. That's a wrapped stitch. Oops. Catch both of those loops. Oh, I'm making it look hard, all right? But it's not. Okay. A regular stitch. And another wrapped stitch. So I can get the little marker off. And that's just a safety measure like I mentioned before. that I don't forget to pick up the wrap. And knit the two together. Okay. Well, that wasn't so okay, but we'll just live with it. Okay. And this shows you what short rows are good for. This is my cast on edge here, and yet you see I have a whole lot more work built up here on this side of my work than I do at the far end. And that's because I've been doing a bunch of short rows in here, and when you keep knitting in this one area and you don't knit over here, you build up your work. Okay, so it's for shaping. It's very useful to know. There you go.